Alrighty, team, welcome along to tonight's coaching call. Topic tonight is beyond the workout, understanding the metrics that drive your fitness. Now, there's a few different metrics we often use, whether it's on training peaks or on training tilt, or even some that pop up on Strava as well, that not everyone has a full understanding of. So we're going to be covering off on those. But the key topics we're going to talk about is why the metrics exist, looking at the big three, TSS. I've got a typo there. It should be IF, not IP, and then NP or NGP for running, and ES tagged in next to TSS, which is the training tilt equivalent of TSS. Going to look at running metrics, cadence, power, graded average pace. We're going to look at heart rate and RPE and how to interpret a hard week. Plus, we're going to how you know if you're overdoing it, have a little bit of a Q&A as well. So why metrics matter? So basically there's a number of reasons why metrics they just dial the information down to a few key numbers. So you're not getting overloaded with a whole lot of different information that most of it is not necessarily irrelevant, but it's not important. And if we can look at two or three key things that are important, it helps remove that confusion and you can get an overall feel or overall picture of what's happening with your training. Whether we're talking about your training as in weeks and months or an individual session. Some of the other metrics we look at are looking at your overall health, and if certain numbers spike up too much, then we can come to a conclusion that you're on the pathway to overdoing it, and we can try and pull things back in before you get injured or something else happens. The whole idea is that you train smarter, not harder. And to put it into some sort of context, was that session productive? Was it too hard? Was it not hard enough? And those are the two key things. Was the session too hard, which is what most people do their easy sessions too hard, or was it not hard enough? Because they're tired from doing the easy sessions too hard, they can't fully commit and deliver the goods on those hard sessions. And also to track that long-term progress. How is that training tracking on the way up? That's looking at that overall big picture. So the big three, TSS, that's your training stress score. The training tilt equivalent is effort score, which is effectively the same thing. It's looking at your total training stress, combining intensity and duration. It helps compare sessions from one day of the week to the following week. So, for example, the velocity session on Tuesday, what is the training stress score of that compared to the following Tuesday? Or you might look at Tuesday to Thursday and go, well, Thursday's training stress score isn't that much higher, but it's a lot longer session. That might be because the intensity is a lot lower and we're not packing as much bang for buck into the longer session. To put numbers in perspective, anytime you're getting a TSS score of more than 100, it's a big session. That might be, if we look at last week's Emma Snowsall's bike threshold session, an hour 15, but it had a TSS score of 95. So that is a solid session packed into those 75 minutes. Whereas something a little bit more laid back, like this week's session, which has got a TSS of about 60 from memory, it's a big step down, allowing for a bit more recovery from the harder session last week. It's a great tool, or TSS is a great tool for monitoring the overall weekly load. So we can just look at the sessions. Monday it was this, we add that to the Tuesday's TSS, Wednesday's TSS, Thursday's, Friday's, Saturday, and we can get an overall picture of how hard that week was. It's a lot more reliable and productive than saying you did 10 hours of training. We can look at the stress delivered on your body from that training that's represented by that number, and is it more or less than the week before or after? When we want to look and see how intense a particular workout is, we can look at the intensity factor. It basically shows you how you trained as a percentage of your threshold. Whether that threshold is cycling, running, swimming, kayaking, It's a proportion of that. One being a 100% threshold for the duration. A level two ride or run would be 66% or 0.66. But then there's some sessions out there that are short but very intense, and the intensity factor might be 1.0 something, which means that you're absolutely smashing it for the duration. And that is an average across the session, including the warm up and the cool down. That's a quick way that I utilize to look at a session and say, well, did the person do this session at the intensity prescribed? If their intensity factor is way higher than what it was supposed to be, or way lower, then I can look at that and know instinctively that they were out by a long shot. Then looking at normalized power or normalized graded pace for running, it's a measure of effort in relation to your average power or pace, and it reflects the true metabolic cost, especially during intervals or hilly sessions where there's a lot of variation in intensity throughout the workout. It's not too relevant for a steady state ride because you'll find that the normalized power is going to be pretty similar to the average power, or the average pace is going to be very similar to the normalized graded pace for that steady state session. You might find on Strava as well, and some Garmin devices, they might talk about graded or gap graded average pace as opposed to normalized graded pace, which is the training peaks term. So with the combination of all three of those metrics, they pretty much tell me the story of how well that workout went, or that week or day was compared to other days and weeks. They're the three key things I look at before I dive into any other data. So when looking at the bigger picture of fatigue and fitness and looking at the overall load, the acute load is basically looking at the last 7 days, and it's indicative of fatigue. If that's constantly climbing, I know we're going to get to breaking point at some point. It also, if someone complains that they're feeling tired or fatigued, we can look back at that load and we'll usually find that that is a lot higher than it has been in the previous weeks, and that is the exact reason why they're feeling tired. When we look at a more long term, over sort of a month or more, the chronic load, that represents your base fitness. If you've been consistent and done a little every day, that long term load will build up consistently over time. If you have big patches of not doing much and periods where you have maybe some big weekends but not much consistency during the week, you'll find that it rides a bit of a roller coaster as opposed to that gradual climb that gets you a build in fitness a lot more effectively. And that build in fitness, or the ramp rate, shows how quickly that load is increasing. If it's just going straight up, it's another indicator that your fatigue is going to be going up with it, and you're getting closer and closer to being overtrained and or injured. If it's pretty much flatline, progress isn't really going anywhere, then things are happening too slowly, and we need to look at optimizing things for the future so we can get a little bit more out of you, so we can build that fitness predictably in the long term. So the key insight down there, fitness grows when the long term or that chronic load rises consistently throughout, but only if the short term load is managed carefully. So there's no point having big jumps for a period of day or period of days, about a week. We can use that, offload slightly, and then build it again, but it needs to be consistently going up. When we're looking at our running metrics, cadence, power, that normalized graded pace or the grade adjusted pace that I mentioned before for Strava, cadence, that's how many steps per minute. It helps control your pace on an easy day. We try and back things off, and the higher cadence means we're moving quickly and efficiently as well. Running power is a great tool we can use that shows your effort independent of the pace. or the terrain that you're running at or running over that's going to dictate that pace. So hills, windy environment, it makes the power can be a lot more consistent and reliable relative to your effort. The normalized graded pace, or that gap, it shows your flat equivalent pace. What pace would the effort you're putting in on those hills, what pace would that be on the flat? And it gives you an indication of how you can monitor things throughout a workout as well. So particularly for someone like you, Jamie, going out on your hilly runs where there's lots of undulations, it's a great way to manage that pace and adjust things, backing off when you need to, lifting the effort when you need to. So running at a hard effort uphill, whether we were using power or the grade adjusted pace on a Garmin, that running hard uphill, you can look at it and go, oh, the target pace should be this. I need to back it off to hit that. Or I'm not quite pushing hard enough. I need to put in a bit more effort. It's useful for understanding that pacing consistency throughout the workout. Heart rate and rating of perceived exertion. They're two different metrics that we can utilize. So heart rate is your body's response to the workout, and there's a delay in that happening. It's not a great tool for monitoring your intensity in the moment. But what you can do is monitor your heart rate over time. Your effort or intensity at the start of a run might be exactly the same later on in the run, but your heart rate has drifted up as a result of fatigue. But it also can give you some indication, because blood obviously is mainly made up of water, and that fluid that your heart is pumping around the body, if you're getting dehydrated, that fluid, there's less in the blood, and the blood is effectively getting thicker. So at the end of the workout, it's harder for the heart to pump because the blood is thicker due to the dehydration. So that is another tool we can utilize and monitor heart rate changes within a run to pick up on some of these clues. Now, it also talks about decoupling in there. That's looking particularly at the comparison of heart rate and pace or power at the start of the run or the ride to the end of it, and seeing how different that is, how decoupled that has become. And it can give you an indication of your aerobic fitness when that's happening. Heart rate variability is another tool. I much prefer to use that, not so much within workouts, but whilst people are recovering. Gives an indication of how recovered you are and how ready you are for a hard workout. It's more of an overall trend from day to day to week than it is in any given moment. And then finally, the rating of perceived exertion. That's your internal interpretation of how hard a workout was. In a long-term comparison, it can be quite good, but it's also affected by a lot of things, particularly your perception of how well you have recovered from previous rides or runs, how poor your sleep has been. If you're under-fueled, you might believe, some people might believe they are still good to go. Other people might know a bit more intuitively that they are underprepared, so therefore are going to be a lot more cautious. So your body is the best metric. Numbers are only a guide, but at the end of the day, you make the decision about the numbers that you enter into the system, particularly around the ratings of perceived exertion. So how do we look at a hard week? And some of the key things to look at: what's the overall TSS or effort score adding up each workout from that week? Has the workout spiked compared to previous weeks, or is it a gradual step up from the week before, which was a gradual step up from the week before that, and so on? Have a look at the heart rate and any records of rating of perceived exertions or RPEs that you've recorded after each workout. Are things feeling harder than they should, or are things actually getting easier as you become fitter? Overall, assess how well you've been sleeping, your overall stress, not just training stress, but work stress, life stress, financial stress. They all contribute to overall impacting your training, as well as how well have you been fueling. All these external factors have a massive impact on what comes out in both perceived metrics and also measured metrics. Is that overall long-term load increasing just slowly and gradually, or is it starting to ramp up and peak? And from that, we can then look at and interpret, are you moving towards fatigue and breaking down, or are you just climbing gradually and adapting as we progress you through the pathway? What sort of things do you need to look out for to see if you're overdoing it? There's going to be a few things. Rising short-term load, that's that fatigue indicator I touched on earlier, particularly in line with poor sleep and if the legs are feeling heavy. But they might feel heavy because you did a hard threshold session the day before. That's to be expected. But if they're heavy 3, 4 days later still and you've only done easy sessions, then that's not to be expected. Is the heart rate higher than normal during an easy run? How does that compare to your power or pace? What about your heart rate? Is it lower than expected during hard efforts, particularly? You're pushing hard but not achieving the targets. If you're increasing or your RPE is increasing for sessions that should feel easy, that's another indicator that things aren't going well. If it was an easy run or ride and you're getting back in the RPE, you think, oh, that was a 6 or a 7, then that's not aligned with where it should have been. And also the large spikes in your overall TSS or effort score from week to week, that's a classic sign that things are being overdone and it's time to back things off. If you've got decreased motivation or your mood is going out the window, another sign that you're overdoing it. Cadence, particularly running, not so much with cycling, will drop off with fatigue. It will decrease slightly with cycling, but running, you can see some big changes in cadence, as well as power or pace falling off and being less than what they were or what they would be compared to a similar RPE normally. All right, questions. Anyone got some questions? When I logged in, there were a few people already there, good to go. We'll just work down the side of my screen. Jamie, you're at the top. We'll start with you, my friend.
Nah, nothing you haven't explained before or just re-explained in this one.
Yep. Things are trucking along nicely with you. We'll catch up this week after your appointment. Sweet. Feel free to jump on the Calendly and book a time. There should be some slots available later on in the week. We'll catch up after that appointment.
Sweet, mate.
Stu, your next cab off the rank.
No, I'm good, mate. It's all sorted.
Sweet. Jason, welcome back to cold South Island.
Oh, hasn't been too bad actually. We've been sort of high 20s since I got home, so it's been a nice weaning process.
Sweet.
No real questions. Where do you may have said it at the start, but where do we find all this information? Is it within Training Tilt or?
Yeah, so if you just click on any workout in Training Tilt,
Oh yeah,
it will have the data there.
yeah. No, it was more the cumulative, but I suppose that's more of a manual process, which is why you get paid the big bucks.
If you go under the dashboard, actually it's easier if I crank up the laptop beside me. Bear with me.
Sorry.
I just got to try and remember that my screen is different from yours. So if you look at the overall stats in a given workout, it'll have the if I just find one that was planned, so it'll have the the completed distance and then the planned distance. Very few sessions will I plan a distance, so it'll probably have a dash, and then it will have the planned time. The completed time, and then a dash, a slash, sorry, backslash, and then the completed time, the planned time. So I'm just looking at an example here that someone didn't do the completed time. And so the numbers are different. So I'm just giving them around the wrong way. And then on the next line below that, it'll have the effort score or the equivalent of TSS. It'll have the completed TSS. In this instance, I'm looking at it's 54. And then beside that, it's got the planned effort score, which in this case was 95. So this person pulled out slightly early in the workout and did about half the work. You then look at, next to that is the intensity factor. And once again, you've got the completed intensity factor compared to the planned intensity factor. In this case, 0.83 compared to 0.87. So this person was just missing the mark a little bit, and that's the reason she pulled out of the session. So that summary is in the initial screen. When you click on it, it brings up all the planned data, and then when you go into the analyze, then it has a bit more in the left-hand edge of the screen. It has all the completed data in terms of the effort score, intensity factor, your average power, max power, distance covered, duration, average speed, normalized power, average cadence. It also has what's known as the VI or variability index, which I haven't covered in this presentation, and average heart rate, as well as those RPE examples that I talked about. Training Tilt has a really great feature where it's got a simple display of 5, I say smiley faces. Not all of them are smiley, to give an indication of how great that session was or not great. And then a rating out of 10 for the actual perceived exertion. And you can just click those and update manually. In terms of the overall accumulation, there's I think it's in your dashboard, there's like a graph type icon, and it will give a whole lot of charts that display a lot of different things, but the one you want is your performance management, and that's got three key lines on it. Your acute training load, which is what we talked about being the indicator of fatigue. That's looking at the sum of all the effort scores over the last week. And then you've got the chronic training load, which is the more long-term one that's tracking your fitness building up. And so that's over the last 42 days, the accumulation of the effort score. And it's also got your form, which is the difference between the two.
Right.
So that's where you need to look. I don't know if it's on the mobile app.
No, that's what I was looking at, and I couldn't find it on there. But I'll go desktop and delve.
Training Peaks is similar for those of you that use that. They do have some of those graphs in a simplified form on your phone on the mobile app.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Sweet. No dramas. Gareth.
No questions from me tonight.
Sweet. We'll loop back round, and then when I get back to you, then you've got some news to share with everyone else about a wee project you've been working on. Jamie, anything else from you, my friend? Stu? Jason? All right, Gareth, the floor is yours. Just so you're aware, and you might have had this intentionally, your camera's not on, so it'll be a blank screen talking.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry, I don't actually have a camera connected to this computer, so I won't show up. So some of you are aware of this, Ray certainly is, but for about the last year, I have been building a online video platform, kind of similar to Velocity, connects to cycle trainers and Bluetooth treadmills. Has a bunch of video files on there that you can play back, and you get your live stats over the top. Kind of so we don't have workouts, but it's kind of designed around the steady state type workouts. We're just going to sit there and grind away with some interesting video to watch. Ray has very kindly contributed a bunch of videos. We're approaching nearly 50 videos on the platform now, and I've built it as a subscription platform. So it does running with Bluetooth treadmills and cycling with smart trainers. It also officially supports rowing, but I don't have any rowing content because I don't know anybody with a rower. So that might have to wait before I get that part of it launched. So the system is called Ver, which is V and then 3 R's. And the website address is ver.co. So VRRR.co. And there's a website up there with all the information about it, and you can sign up online. There's a 28-day free trial, and after that time, you have to subscribe if you want to play the videos. But if anybody's interested in checking it out or having a play, feel free to sign up. There's no obligation to subscribe. I just love to get some feedback and get some people in there trying it out and, you know, telling me what's wrong, what's broken, what works, what doesn't work. Yeah. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but happy to answer them.
So I know, Gareth, you used the analogy of it's like velocity. It's a bit closer aligned to the likes of Ruby, where you've got video footage of a real route out in the real world and a GPS file that basically moves you through that video footage, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably a better way of describing it. Sorry, I'm maybe talking very fast and a bit technical. You could have put me on the spot tonight, right?
That's right. So,
there's some other platforms out there. For example, you've got Ruby, as you mentioned. They're cycling only. Their big thing is AR, and they're partnered with Ironman, and they've got a lot of routes out there, and they're very heavy on their marketing. There's another smaller platform called KinoMap, which is very similar to Ver. They've been around for many years, but I just thought, you know what, I'll throw my hat into the ring and see if I can build something that you know, gets a few subscribers and is, you know, ultimately something I've created.
nice. And in terms of my involvement, I'm really enjoying playing around with it and giving it a go. So there's a few different options in terms of particularly cycling locally. Stu will be familiar with pretty much every cycling route that I've put on the platform, but also plenty of running in my travels over the last couple of years, or not couple of years, the last 12 months. I think I've thrown 9 different countries worth of running into the platform. So there's plenty of opportunities from New Zealand in the south to Finland in the north. And yes, Jamie, there's even a run from Scotland.
One thing I might add is if you the platform is community content generated, so anybody can upload a video to the platform. So they can send in a video with a GPX file, goes onto the platform, goes live for everybody to play. And I'm sharing subscriber revenue with people who have uploaded videos. So if you've put up a video on the platform, at the end of the month, I will pay you money for people who have watched your video.
Sweet. Thanks for that, Gareth. Any questions from the crew about the platform or anything I've covered tonight?
Yeah, because I love to multitask. I just went onto the site and had a quick squizzles there. So would my Stride PowerPod connect?
I haven't got the Stride wired up yet, but I have got one that I am testing with. Right now, I'm only reading pace data from a treadmill, but Stride Power is definitely on the list to add shortly.
Cool. Cheers.
All right, if there's no further questions, we will wrap things up. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a fantastic week of training. Those riding velocity this week, I'll look forward to riding with you on both Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Hopefully my sleep in now that I'm back from holiday is not going to happen again. Apologies for those that were wanting to ride with me on Thursday, but those that were sleeping in themselves intentionally, as opposed to my unintentional one, they were able to ride the session that evening with the pre-recorded version. So, ka kite anō, have a fantastic week, team, and I'll look forward to hearing from you all in different capacities, seeing that training data, or riding with you live on Velocity, or hearing how you've ran or ridden with me on Ver.
Cheers, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. Have a great night.
Cheers, Ray.
Same for you.
Okay.
Cheers, Stu.
Cheers, Ray. I'll see you Tuesday.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
All right. Catch you later.